Hi everyone, welcome back to Mama's Orchids and Backyard. Sunset Valley Orchid, here we come. We'll do a tour and have a brief visit with Fred Clarke. Sunset Valley Orchid is located about 40 miles north of San Diego. This area has a lot of nurseries. Here is Kent's Bromeliad Nursery. And up the hill is Cartut's greenhouse, and they sell rare flowering plants. Further up the road is our destination. Alright, here we are. The nursery is open only on Fridays and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. I did email Fred ahead of time to be sure that he was open for us to visit. This is the office area, and we have this sweet dog here to welcome us. Then I was greeted by Carlos, who is a longtime employee of the place. He is a very friendly, patient, and knowledgeable person about orchids. So let's take a tour and talk about how they grow their orchids from seed till the time they're old enough to sell. The first area has the office and also has a lot of large orchids hung up, and there are trays of seedlings ahead of us, and that's Fred ahead of me about to show me the plugs. And he's also going to give us a little background information.
The seed pod, after you pollinate the flower, it takes about 8 months for the seed pod to mature.
Okay.
Once you have a mature seed pod, then you go into the laminar airflow hood and you open the seed pod under aseptic conditions, and you sow the seed in what we call a flask. It's on a nutrient agar solution, and that seed germinates. It takes about 1.5 years. We get the flask back, we deflask the plants, and we put them into trays. So these plants were recently taken out of flask. They're about 6 months now, and in about 1 year we'll take these plants and then we'll pot them up into pots, and then this is what we'll be selling. Okay. And so this is about 4 years from the date of pollination.
Yeah. Okay.
Here we'll see,
And I apologize for the static noise in the background. I didn't bring a proper microphone to record at the time.
Some of Fred's plants and plants that he has for observation, but he does have some Pachypedilums for sale right down this aisle, especially down here in the center. So here you can see some of the multifloral Pachypedilums. We just had an open house on June 4th, so we brought some of the Pachypedilums forward here for people to take a look at. For these, you want to water them once a week and allow the bark to stay wet in between each watering.
Okay.
And then let me show you the CALiMAGic right down this way.
Let me give you a quick explanation of the setup. We're currently in the main greenhouse, and we're looking down the corridor that connects 3 smaller greenhouses that are set up parallel to each other. So this pass-through is running perpendicular to the greenhouses.
Our breeding greenhouse is actually right here on the right-hand side. And as you walk in, the first 2 benches that you see here in the front will be all species. And those will be species that you find in the wild. And the 2 benches to the far right and to the far left will be all hybrids. And we make all of our own hybrids. Fred, here and take a look at some of the orchids. Just be careful because I watered, so some of these are still wet.
Yep.
But you can see some of the species like Lilia purpurata there. Like there's a Carnea version of Lilia purpurata.
Okay.
And he starts everything from seed, and then we send the seed off to the laboratory, and then we get it back. So here we actually have a heater. It doesn't get below 50 degrees. Okay. But yeah, right now it is pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah, and we just opened all the greenhouses right now because I was watering.
The next greenhouse contains orchids for sale that are listed on their website. So these orchids are about 4 years old now. He calls it 2022 orchids.
In February.
Okay.
So it's been about 6 months since we released it. This greenhouse used to be all filled with Cattleyas, but now we just have these 5 benches here. So it's these 3 on this side, and then these 2 benches here. This is everything for 2022, but like I said, there's not much in flower because we're getting to the end of the spring season.
Okay.
And we'll have more in, in a few more weeks.
Okay.
But this next greenhouse is actually everything for sale for 2023. So everything that we have is like in a cycle.
Oh.
Came back from the 2023 greenhouse, and then these are all the ones for next year's release in February.
Right. No, I'm sorry. That was 2022, and this is 2023.
Yes, that's
Okay,
right.
okay. And the 2023 orchids are not yet for sale on the website until February of next year. But if you're at the greenhouse, you can purchase it right now. So these were deflasked when?
These ones were deflasked. Actually, no. They got deflasked in 2020.
Yeah.
They grew in plug all of 2021. They got potted up at the end of 2021, and then they've been growing since. So now they're actually starting to.
3 years old, about.
Yeah, about
Yeah.
3 years old. Yeah. And you can actually walk down the aisle. So this kind of helps you make way.
Okay.
Or the aisle that's like right here, for example, and you can walk in.
Okay.
Now we have a very strict breeding. These CALiMAGics are flowering at, 2 years old, 2.5 years old.
Okay.
So they flower quite young, actually.
Yeah.
And then down here we actually have a private collection. So plants down here aren't for sale. Yeah, you're allowed to visit them and take a look at them.
Okay. Oh wow. And are these just privately owned by Fred, or are they just or other people rent the spot?
We only rent space to 2 vendors actually. Well, one of them's a vendor. So these 2 benches here in the front belong to Peter Lynn of Diamond Orchid, and then 2 benches on the left belong to a hobbyist who's just an orchid collector, just like me and you.
Right.
And Peter Lynn is from Diamond Bar. He mostly specializes in Bandaceous orchids, mini Cattleyas, and very novelty type of orchids. He actually has a few down here as examples. So a lot of those are Neophoenicias.
Yeah, I recognize them.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's beautiful
He also
display
has
of them.
these Mysticidum Neil McCormick. Yeah, I think this might be an intergeneric hybrid. I'm not too sure. I'm not too familiar with that cross.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I only have one, so. Wow, you have a lot of mounts in the back too. These are the miniature ones. Look how they're gorgeous when blooming already.
So this is a miniature Cattleya, Sophronitis cernua.
Yeah.
He has a lot of them here. You can even see that he has a larger one here. That's the largest specimen.
Yeah.
And there's another one right in that corner and right there as well.
Okay.
But yeah, they have these small red flowers, and a lot of those are used in hybridizing for, strong.
After the tour with Carlos, I was able to catch Fred Clarke one more time before he was leaving for a meeting. And I wanted to ask him what was his trends this year for hybridization. So let's see what he has to say. Fred Clarke at Sunset Valley Orchid. He's going to tell us what some of the trends are in his hybridization this year.
Well, the hottest trend for me right now is spotted blue Cattleyas. And here's some examples of some of those. You can see they're blue, and if you look, you can see the spots on there. And so we're breeding to get cerulean flowers with lots of blue spots. And this plant here is one of our favorites. You can see we've got 4 seed pods on it. It's getting a little old now. And these are its siblings. Well, these are from a few years ago, so it takes 5 or 6 years to grow a plant up. Right. And we see we've bloomed these a couple times already. You can see the old flowering. And so what we've done is we've just picked a few plants some years ago, and we've allowed them to mature so we can see how well the flowers look, how many flowers are produced, how they arrange on the stem. And then we pick the highest quality plants with the best growth habit, and we use those to breed with. Let's briefly talk about the differences in growing orchids from seed germination versus micropropagation. Now, in micropropagation, the cells and tissues of a specimen orchid is being used to make more of the same cells and tissue that grows to be a lot of little orchids. So growers that uses micropropagation like tissue culture method will get genetically identical orchids as the subject. So that means all the little orchids that grow from the sample tissue will be exactly alike. So you don't get progenies, they're exact copies.
So I think Sunset Valley orchid is very different in that they do use the seed germination process to grow their orchids, and that makes their outcomes and their crosses very interesting. It's a very long, dedicated process. And I don't know, for growers that do use micropropagation, do they have to pay a licensing fee for using a cross that was created by someone else? Time-wise, though, it's definitely longer with the seed germination process, but you get a unique orchid. So there are pros and cons of both. On this visit, I picked up a few orchids. Not that I need any more, of course, so I tried very hard to limit myself to 3. I got a 4th one as a gift for another orchid enthusiast I was visiting later that day. The first orchid in our haul today has been on the wish list for at least 4 years now. When you see the picture, you'll know why. Isn't it gorgeous? I was looking for David Sanders, and this one is a David Sanders cross times David Sanders Just As Nice variety. What struck me for this next one is the deep red tone of one of the parent plant. It's classified in the compact Cattleya grouping. It's Patinera Elaine Taylor Curlsmith times Patinera Lupin Chris Diamond Orchids variety. The next one is on a recent wish list, and it's available in a lot of places, but I am conveniently here and no shipping fee. So this is Dendrobium microchip, known for many profuse blooms on a tiny compact plant. This last one is the gift. It's Virginia Dickey Diamonds Orchid times Ruby Delight SVO. It's very pretty red. This one was classified as a mini Cattleya, and it was blooming when I got it. I forgot to take a picture of the bloom during my visit, so this is a picture a month later. Well, if you made it this far to the video, thank you so much for sticking around, and have a good day. Bye-bye.